Hey guys, I'm gonna share a screen and I'm gonna try and do this all pro-like with a slideshow and everything. Is everyone seeing my lovely
Yes.
screen? Excellent. Okay. So thanks, Jordan. I appreciate like the 10 or so minutes that you're giving me today. Some people are really familiar with the local Dark Skies initiative, but for those that aren't, I just wanted to take a few minutes of your time this morning to introduce you to the concept of dark skies and what a special thing we have in the Woodlands, and to help everyone understand what threatens our dark skies and hopefully get HOA members excited about working together as a neighborhood to improve our dark skies in the Woodlands. Before I go any further, I want to ask everyone to reflect on the role of dark skies in their personal lives. I remember when I was a kid, I got to watch the Perseid meteor shower every August with my family, and we'd get bundled up in our sleeping bags on the deck behind our house in the wee hours of the morning, and it was a pretty magical experience. It brought me closer to my family. It gave me context for the infinite smallness of our existence within the universe, and it really connected me to our natural world. And I can't see the Perseid meteor shower from my house anymore, which is a little bit sad. Nick has a story about driving north from Eugene when he was in college, and he saw the aurora borealis in the southern Willamette Valley, which also I don't think that anybody could possibly do at this point in their lives. And I hope other people on the call have similar stories about, magical dark sky experiences. So please continue to reflect on why darkness matters to you and why it should matter to our neighborhood as I keep going here. I think everyone's pretty aware that all types of light pollution is increasing rapidly and that dark skies are especially rare. What you're seeing here is the progression of artificial light at night as seen from space. And it's not hard to imagine the world without any remaining natural darkness at all if we continue on our current path. If you're interested in reading some more, Paul Bogard wrote a great book called The End of Night, and he estimates that 2/3 of Americans and Europeans no longer real night, and that nearly all of us live in areas that are considered polluted by light. And we're really, really lucky to be able to spend time in the Methow Valley and experience being under a truly natural dark sky. Of course, this isn't like a super feel-good, pat on the back presentation for Liberty Woodlands HOA members. I'm a little worried that our homes might be unnecessarily contributing to light pollution. And what you're seeing is a screenshot from a website called lightpollutionmap.info. And you can go there and take a look at this. And as you can see, the Woodlands homes are a source of light pollution. And I think it's really telling to compare our neighborhood to Edelweiss across the valley, where there are more houses, but no apparent light pollution. So to get us all on the same page, I'd like to define what light pollution is. And from a sort of a universally accepted definition, it's any adverse effect of artificial light at night. And it comes in 3 forms: sky glow, glare, and light trespass. This is a picture of sky glow. You can see on the right-hand side of the picture, this dome of brightness on the horizon that obscures our view of the night sky. This is a picture, an actual picture of the Tucson sky glow. You can see it's obscuring the stars and the view of the sky, and that you can barely see the Milky Way on the left. And it's caused by misdirected light that scatters up through our atmosphere. Glare is when light enters our eyes at shallow angles and causes our pupils to restrict. And it reduces your ability to see and sometimes causes discomfort and pain. And if anyone's ever driven down a lonely road at night only to be blinded by oncoming high beams that someone forgot to turn off, you've definitely experienced glare. And the third type of light pollution is light trespass. And I'm sure everyone on the call has at some point in their life been kept awake by light streaming into their bedroom window at night from a neighboring property. I know I have that problem in Kirkland. And this is a prime example of light trespass, when light is falling outside of someone's property boundary onto another property or home. Light pollution has a myriad negative consequences. from animals to humans and everything in between. And there are many, many reasons to protect our darkness. There's a German geoscientist named Christopher Kaiba, and he estimates that the introduction of artificial light probably represents one of the most drastic changes human beings have ever made to the environment. And I'll just give you a couple examples that are relevant to the woodlands. Amphibians like frogs and toads are affected by light pollution. Their nighttime croaking is part of their breeding ritual. And so when artificial light disrupts their nocturnal activity, it interferes with reproduction and reduces populations. And every year, new research is adding even more wildlife to the list of animals being affected by too much light. And that includes things we see in the woodlands like hummingbirds, butterflies, bats, and owls. Songbirds and other birds are also affected by too much light. Like moths, they get attracted to light. And they also use dark skies at night for their celestial navigation. And when birds are confronted by brightly lit skies, they become disoriented. And it obscures their view of the night sky, which they use to find their direction. Birds also fly toward light, and if they don't immediately collide with a building, they're reluctant to leave the lit area and return to the dark. And I found these pictures particularly interesting because I think a lot of people who live in cities see trees like this in the fall. And this is an example of trees being affected by light pollution. Trees that get exposed to artificial light at night, they bud earlier, they lose their leaves later, and they have shorter lifespans. And you can see in the pictures how the distribution of light on these trees has affected their natural cycles. I think we can all also estimate that light pollution represents wasted energy. About 30% of the lighting worldwide is wasted up into the sky because it shoots straight up. And if you do the math, that means we spend about $3 to $7 billion a year on wasted light. And that represents adding 21 million tons of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere each year. It also affects our human health. Humans evolved on this planet with reliable cycles of light and dark, and which, is tied to our melatonin secretion and our being able to sleep at night. And darkness disrupts those circadian rhythms and melatonin production, especially when we're exposed to the blue-white light that mimics, what we experience under daytime sun. And disrupted sleep, as we know, disrupts our health. So if we know light pollution is a problem and that it's increasing, I think the natural question is, can we do anything about it? And I would say yes. But before I go on, I would just want to be really clear that none of this presentation is about advocating for the elimination of artificial light. I just want to bust a myth that more lighting itself is not necessarily safer. And that that some people might have a misconception that well lit equals more light, when in reality, well lit equals well-designed lighting. And you can see in those pictures on the left, the top picture represents light that has a lot of glare, and that glare blocks our vision outside of the circle of light. But if we eliminate glare by putting our hand over that source of light, we can actually see further. And so we should consider lighting design as a way to mitigate against light pollution and protect our dark skies. Okanagan County has a lighting ordinance requiring lighting to be dark sky compliant. And in my conversations with folks, I'm given to understand that the architectural committee for our HOA is committed to enforcing this ordinance when it evaluates new construction plans. But there were a lot of homes that were probably built in the woodlands before this ordinance was passed, and that were not subject to this requirement and might need to be updated. I know our house was built in 2006, and we probably need to take a look at some of our exterior lighting. So for anyone who might be in this position, or who maybe wants to think about their lighting on their primary homes elsewhere, I'll just briefly describe the 4 elements of good lighting design: shielding, color, intensity, and warranting. Shielding refers to aiming lights down at what we're trying to light. And by doing that, we dramatically reduce glare and actually increase visibility and better illuminate the intended area. Shielding light also decreases the need for the total amount of light. So you aren't sending light out into your neighbor's window or up into the sky, and you can use less light and save energy on bills. So I think the pictures here on the bottom on the left, you have unshielded light that lights actually the same amount of area on the ground as the lights on the right, but you can see that from a practical standpoint, the shielded lights actually do just as fine of a job at lighting the area as the unshielded lights do. The other thing to think about is the color of the light. It's measured in Kelvin, and the American Medical Association and the International Dark Skies Association recommending using bulbs that are less than 3000 Kelvin to minimize the amount of blue light. And that information is usually printed on the side of light bulb packaging. So when you're buying replacement bulbs, or if you want to go out and buy replacement bulbs, I would encourage you to look at the Kelvin rating and look for things that are less than 3000. That's a very warm light. And the last two are intensity and warranting. I think with respect to warranting, that's the consideration of whether a light is really needed in the first place. And it's really simple to test this at your property in the Woodlands or at home by unscrewing a light bulb or not turning a light on in the first place to see if you actually need that light. And if you do actually need a light, use a shielded light, obviously. And then also to remember that no matter what you do, if you light a place, there's still going to be some light that's reflected up from the ground. And that's especially true in the Woodlands in the winter when we have snow on the ground. So to minimize, and that's to minimize this, the idea is to only use the amount of light that's needed for the task at hand. So use the lowage wattage bulb necessary for the lighting task at hand. So each individual action, each one of these things kind of seems like a small thing, but I think each individual action that each homeowner takes will make a difference. And if we work together, we can create changes on a larger scale that benefit everybody. So some of the things that we can do are to use timers and motion sensors. And I think this could be really useful, especially on properties that get rented out because our guests might not remember to turn the lights off at night. You can use full cutoff or fully shielded lighting fixtures, replacing any inefficient bulbs with energy efficient bulbs that use a warm lighting, and also consider not lighting an area if it's not truly necessary. If you're looking for dark sky friendly lighting, you can check out, you can look for the IDA's sort of seal of approval. They have a database on their website. And the URL that's here is actually just a link to Home Depot's list of IDA approved lighting. You can actually go to their website and search for dark sky lighting, and they will bring up things that are only dark sky approved. So, so if you're looking for something, this might be a way to find it pretty easily. So anyway, I hope people are as excited as I am about the dark skies that we have in the Woodlands. And I hope everyone's encouraged by the fact that it doesn't take a lot of effort to protect them. Gay and I have been in touch with the president of the local dark skies organization in the Met HOA. Many of you know him, Kyrie, who's affiliated with Met HOA Reservations. He's willing to come to our individual homes in the Woodlands and do a free dark sky audit and to help homeowners create just a really basic punch list of cost-effective changes that they could consider making on their homes. I'm super, super sensitive, especially right now, to the fact that, changes are going to cost, would necessarily cost money. And so I've been looking into grants to see if I could find something to help homeowners offset any cost to them to make those changes. To be successful though, we are probably going to need to aggregate the data on the number of mitigation measures and estimated costs to implement them. And so I guess I would like to put it out there and ask if there's any interest in creating a task force to help coordinate audits for homeowners, especially folks that might not be there all the time, and to aggregate that information to be able to apply for financial assistance.
Is there any discussion on this? So I'll go first. I think it's a great idea, and I think, you know, if I understand it right, if we were to do these audits, there's no requirement tied to that. There would be no mandate that anything necessarily happens. If I understand what you're saying, and I dropped off there for a second, so I might have missed a key part. But what you're saying is, what you're interested in is just figuring out where are we relative to the dark sky initiative in the county and in the state, and let's just see where we are. I think that would be a great idea. I know that, you know, one of the reasons we all love it up here is because it's in such a natural state, and having losing the dark night skies would be, I think, a detriment, right? So.
Yeah, you're correct, Jordan. Nobody. So yeah, an audit on your home is not tied to any requirement to do anything. It's just a check-in to say, oh hey, how's my house doing? And is there anything that I can do to improve it? So you kind of have that list for yourself. So you're correct in that respect. And then, if you wanted to do something, you know, people would at least have the information available to themselves to know what to do. Because sometimes I think action's hard to do if you don't know what you're supposed to do. But I also feel like there's value for us as a community, because you're right, dark skies are super cool. And the fact that it is pretty dang dark in the Woodlands is pretty awesome. But I think to the extent that that funding might be available through a grant, it would be really helpful to have an aggregate of like how we're doing and how many mitigation measures might need to be taken, and an estimate of the cost of that, because then that would inform our grant and any kind of grant proposal that we might make for HUD funding or anything like that. So yeah.
Carrie, this is Virgie. I really liked your presentation, and I thought it was really informative and good. Thank you for doing it.
Carrie, I wanted to just point out that, was it last year, maybe 2 years ago, we did the Firewise audit, and we had those who we invited the Firewise folks to come and do an audit of our house. And that was super helpful, understanding, you know, what we needed to do and how to do it. So if something like that is available, I think it'd be good for us to take advantage of that with the dark skies thing.
Carrie, that was an excellent presentation. Really wonderful. Thank you for all the time you put into that. Very helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. So I think at this time we would entertain any motions relative to a dark skies task force initiative.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
So, I mean, just to be clear, the next steps to make this happen are for someone like Gay, perhaps, and perhaps a member of the board to make the task force, coordinate these audits with Kyrie, aggregate the data, probably report back at the end of the year. Are we missing anything? I mean, those are all the details that I heard in terms of making it happen.
Basically, form a task force, coordinate the audits, aggregate the data, and then report out.
I'll motion that we do that.
Are there any seconds out there in the Woodlands?
Virginia's giving the, not Virginia, I know somebody else named Virginie. Virgie is giving the peace sign.
There, we'll take that as a second. Love it, love it.
Peace, love, and dark skies.
Awesome. Okay, all those in favor of forming a task force to coordinate auditing of dark skies, lighting around the community, and aggregating that data, followed by a report out at the end of the year. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, all opposed? Okay, that one passes as well.
Great. And I put this slide up here with my email address and phone number. So if you have questions after this meeting and want to reach out to me, great. Otherwise, I don't know, I guess we're going to let the task force do its thing.
And Carrie, could you send me your presentation? I'll include it in the minutes.
Well, yeah, I can.
It won't be as good as your narration, but.
Well, since Jordan is recording this, Jordan is going to send me Jordan, I'm asking you to just send a copy of the recording, and I'll trim it down to my presentation, and then I'll post that on our our homeowner association website so people can watch it. Anybody can watch it.
And so,
Okay,
Marsha, maybe in the minutes you could just put a link to that. And
Okay.
it'll live on in perpetuity.
There we go.
Awesome.
And then
Okay.
Carrie, could we put the ordinance on the web, on the Woodlanders, or on our libertywoodlands.com?
Yeah, I can put that information. I can put a link to the ordinance or some information about the ordinance on the want to buy build
Yeah.
page.
Yeah, good.
I can
Great.
do that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can move on unless anybody else has other comments.
No, thank you so much, Carrie. That was awesome. Okay, so next up on the agenda, wanted to